Kestra just got some new Python dependency improvements in Kestra 0.23. Let's check out how these will help you write Python. So to begin with, Python dependencies will now be cached, which should bring big performance improvements to your workflows, specifically where you're running Python tasks across multiple executions. Now, the dependencies will instead be cached and reused each execution, so you should see a performance improvement over multiple executions. On top of that, when you're using the Docker task runner, you can now use it with official Python Docker images, while also seeing multiple executions of the same task consistently use the same Python library versions underneath. What this also enables is the need for a virtual environment. Now, to make this all possible, Kestra is using UV, the Python package manager, under the hood. I've made a dedicated video about it here, so check that out if you haven't heard of it before. Now, thanks to UV's performance improvements, this should hopefully streamline the process of managing your dependencies inside of Kestra. But don't worry, before commands, how you would previously do it isn't going anywhere. So if you've got more complex scenarios, or maybe you're using something like a requirements.txt or poetry, then you would use before commands as you previously were. This is more for those smaller tasks where you just need a few dependencies and you don't want to have to deal with them. This streamlines that process. So let's have a look at what that might look like. So previously, this is what it would have looked like. We've got a Python script task here running on the Docker task runner, and I'm installing pandas. And so here I'm having to specify that pandas will install using before commands. Whereas on the new version, we now have this dependencies property and we just list out the different Python packages that we want. And UV will install these under the hood on the worker. So it means if we use these dependencies across different executions as well as different workflows, they're already cached ready to go. So if I want to use pandas in a different workflow, it will already be there and it will use that, which is again why we don't need that virtual environment in the same way. Now, if you do want to specify a version, you can do that too, just like you would in a requirements.txt, so you can do it equals and then the version as well under the dependencies property. You can also see here, I'm also using a Python image here for my container image, just an official one from the Python Docker Hub. So now if I execute this workflow, what we'll see is this will execute the Python tasks using UV, and we can see that it's going to install those pretty quickly. But we should see performance improvements when we execute this multiple times, because it will cache pandas and the other dependency we installed, which was the Kestra. And now we'll be able to access that in the future. So this took 33 seconds to run and get all those dependencies set up with a Docker image. Now, if I execute this again, we should see a performance improvement, because now it's going to just work with the cache dependencies rather than having to install them again. So here it took about 3 times faster than previously. So definitely worth having a look. Now, let's say you don't want to use the dependencies cached. There is a new property called dependency cached enabled, and by default, this is set to true. So you can set this to false, and now if I was to execute this workflow, we'll see it will take a lot longer. So if you have a scenario where you don't want things to be cached, this is for you. So hopefully that will help to streamline your experience with Python dependencies inside of Kestra. Let us know what you think in the comments below.